Hey friend, welcome to the treehouse. Want to come inside? Oh, wait, just one last thing. All right, let's go inside. Welcome everyone. How's it going? Welcome to Frame by Frame Live. It is January 29th, and I hope you're having a beautiful day. Hope you're having a great week. And I'm excited to be here, and we're going to be having a fun time looking at your photography. Not too many updates today. Let me just, I don't even have a presentation or anything with updates because not much other than if you have been in the community over the past week, you've probably seen a few minor changes, a little bit of housekeeping and tidying up for just the community. A lot based off of feedback from the survey that I sent out a couple weeks ago. So again, thank you to everyone who did that. Good morning, Very, Suzanne, Barbara, B. Sharath. What's up? Happy to have you here live with me. I don't know if anyone is here from the old Facebook group, but I had left the old Photography and Friends Facebook group open and live for a long time without doing anything in there. It was time to officially close it down. It's just time. And so I officially paused all commenting, no posts in that group, and put a post for people inviting them over to the Photography and Friends community. So, hey, Brittany, I was just thinking about you the other day. Welcome. Hey. And so we might have some new members from the Facebook group. So if you are from the Facebook group, welcome. Let me know in the chat if you're watching this or you might see the replay. I just want to welcome you here. I think this space is going to be a lot better than the Facebook group, and because there's just so much stuff going on here and it's all photography related. So yeah, just a couple little updates here. If you have any ideas for how we can make the space better for you, let me know. Just trying to tidy it up and make sure it is working for everyone. So yeah, if you still haven't done so though, I am still getting a lot of information and would love everyone to do the survey, which you can find under announcements on this survey post. So it's the one that says help me please, and you just click the link and it goes to this survey. Super helpful. All right, so with that being said, we are going to get right into it. And I'm actually going to do something different today. So many of you have probably been here for a while and seen these. And usually I give each photo a star rating, 1 through 5, talk about all the things that come to my mind. And to be honest, it's I think it's very helpful, and from based off the survey results, it seems like frame by frame, the weekly challenges, these are the top reasons people love Photography and Friends, and I'm so happy about that. I'm trying to figure out a way to get a little more sustainable with the frame by frame, because I love coming in live, but it ends up being too long, and you probably know that. It's like an hour and a half stream. That's it's just too long. So what I'm going to do today as an experiment, and we'll see, is for each photo, I'm going to say 2 things I like about it and give 1 critique or 1 thing that I think it can make it better. Maybe 2. We'll see. And I think that will help me get through more photos. We are doing the Something Ordinary Becomes Extraordinary challenge from last week today. And if I have time, I'll go back to one of the previous ones that I didn't get, which was, I think, Quiet Moments. There's still one more called Solo Color that I did not get as well. But yeah, we're going to just try it out and see how it goes, because I want to be helpful, but I also want to give respect to everyone's time, including my own. So let us dive right in. If you are here and you have posted a photo to this challenge, comment so I know that you are here live, and I'll give you a special shout out when I get to your photo. All right. with that being said, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Photo Dash Shorts. I've been doing Photo Dash Shorts. That's been fun. Still trying to figure out how to do Photo Dash season 3, but we'll see. Okay. Anyways, take my last swig of coffee before I can get into this. Get the mindset going. And so for this challenge, this one I think was a suggestion from a member, and I'm not exactly sure what this is going to mean. So we're just going to dive into it and see what becomes extraordinary through your photography. So Thomas, Jolene, hello. Rose, good morning. Thank you, Suzanne. All right, so 2 things that I like, 1 thing that I would improve. All right, Sharath, the lady of the lane. I have not looked at these in depth. I kind of scrolled through them just to open them. So this is kind of my first time. I kind of like seeing those photos and just reacting live. So it does take me a moment just to assess the photo. Looks like some beautiful street art on this building. So I love the color for sure. And I think the idea of like this old wall looks like, the street might not be as it's not a brand new street or anything like that, but it has this extraordinary artwork on it, which I love. So just the theme of it, so great topic choice. And then also just the colors and the editing is like really nice colors, nice saturation, nice contrast. My area for improvement, just story-wise, to make this a more interesting photo would probably be to compose it in a way to show that contrast a little bit better, where you can see maybe like the ordinary street in contrast to this beautiful mural. I think that would be interesting. I also see this person here, so I'm going to give a second thing. I see this person here on the left, and I feel like right now they're just a distraction. I would rather have composed a person in there, kind of walking by, maybe looking at the wall, or just showing the street again and like more of the street so you can see like what's happening. Because it is nice to have people in a photo like this, not just like a photo of art. I always say that, like, photos of just someone else's art usually aren't that interesting for people, at least for me. And so having the person in there is good, but right now, kind of just a distraction. I also like this little foreground element. Actually, it kind of frames it. I don't mind that. So there's your 2 things that I like and a couple of ideas for improvement. But thank you for posting. All right, Colleen woke up to this sunrise. Beautiful colors. So 2 things I like about it. Beautiful colors. Obviously, with the sunrise, you get great colors, great contrast. And then the effort to go take this photo even before your coffee. I love that. One thing that I would do to improve this, I guess 2 things. One is you probably just photograph this from, like, it sounds like your bedroom window or somewhere in your house. And so you don't have a lot of control over like framing the sun. But I think you have like a building on the left, you have some trees down below or something. I think just composing it, the sun somehow, like in a more creative way, whether that's like framed in between, like this little if you were a little tighter in on just these trees or something and just framing it right in between one of these and cropping in or zooming in or getting closer so that you're not seeing this building on the left, it kind of breaks up the symmetry, which I think could have been nice for this photo. So just some sort of more interesting framing. And then also these wires that, again, you're just in the place in the moment, so it's hard to frame it that way now where you were at, but you could either remove these in post or just framing without those wires that are going across. Even like a portrait crop for this photo, if you just wanted to edit this photo, I think would help. So like portrait, crop out the left side, right side, and then do like a wire removal, which you can do pretty easily with a lot of tools nowadays. All right, hope that helps. All right, Minaj, a view from the desk. What an epic desk view this is. All right, if I open this, will it be bigger? Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. So where is this? The city. Okay, I. If you're in the comments, tell me what tower this is. Is that the Space Needle in Seattle or something else? Anyways, pretty extraordinary view of the sky. I think what I like about it is I love the reflection of the clouds on this building at the top. That's really nice. And I think that the wide angle lens lends itself to a shot like this. An area for improvement, I would probably say that the bottom of this photo is not too interesting to me, and I feel like the top of the needle and even this building, I kind of want to see that. Like, I want to either be tilted up a little bit more. I don't. This is one of those ones. I think some people might have assumed that, well, the buildings aren't straight, so you want to straighten out those photos. And I think I probably would have straightened out these lines and try to have the building perpendicular with this the sides of the building. However, I feel like Rosemary's. What is this? What is this? But I think it's okay to have it tilted. It kind of creates that weird off feeling. But I think just tilting up might have been better. And then also my second advice would be careful about the vignetting. I actually liked the bright blue sky, and it looks like you added a vignette to the top or to the whole photo, which darkens the sky in the top corner. And I feel like I just want that blue sky. I don't mind a vignette at the bottom necessarily to kind of remove any distractions or kind of fade out the distractions at the bottom. And you could do that custom with either a couple masks or a brush or something like that in Lightroom. And if you don't know how to do that, check out my Lightroom course. So thank you for posting. All right, Barbara, here you go. Halloween decoration, one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite. And her idea of ordinary becomes extraordinary was that these were, I think, toilet paper rolls that she used to decorate or create this decoration, which totally spot on with the theme. I love that. Definitely hits that. I think what I love about this is just that it's highlights the craftsmanship of this decoration so well. And I really love that. The colors and the framing of this at this sort of upward angle is really good to me. I think my two things to improve would be it looks like you added sort of like a blurry vignette type filter, which I don't mind. I think it's just a little too harsh. I think what you're trying to do is add to like this mystical Halloween vibe, but also maybe to sort of remove the distraction of the background. So my other piece of advice would probably be to shift this around. I don't know what this backdrop is, but move it somewhere where this text is not in the background. If it was just like that red sort of paper or whatever that is in the background, I think that would be a lot better. So it's not distracting. And then also tone down the blurred edges, whether that's a setting where you can sort of decrease the blur or feather it a bit more. I think that would help here. So thank you so much for posting. Imran, hello. Hello, everyone who's tuning in live. Davina, walking to a restaurant in New York. No editing. I like the idea of this just normal day, like walking down. I can just imagine everyone's heads pointed straight or down at their phones. And then you look up and you're like, wow, this is extraordinary. So I really love that idea. The choice of looking up is really, really neat. And I think, again, similar to the last one, the wide angle lens, being able to see all of these buildings, I think is nice. I think my piece of advice would be probably I'm not 100% sure. I think like I'm wondering if there was a way to rotate or something where you pick one building. You're still going to be looking up at the same exact angle, but maybe if like one of these buildings was like centered or something, to feel a little bit more balanced. And maybe you're going for like an off balanced feeling, but right now it feels very not symmetrical, which you don't have to be symmetrical, but having like one face of the building be like your hero building in this photo, I think would be nice. Like the architecture on this building is really, really cool. And almost I feel like if even just rotating this photo or something to still be able to see, like highlight some, be able to see the architecture a bit more or something. I don't know. I kind of just want like a little bit of a cleaner image. That being said, I'm like wondering what these are. Are these flagpoles? That's pretty crazy. And then I also see this building at the bottom that's actually kind of cool to have in the bottom. I think a different photo, just even tilted down a little bit where you can see a little more of that photo, might have been interesting, but also it might just be like in a different intersection or part of the road, you would have been able to capture something very similar, but have it more symmetrical, more clean, or something like that. And maybe one last thing is I might boost the shadows just a little bit. You said you didn't edit this, which is fine. But if you were to edit this, I'd increase the exposure, especially on the shadows, so we could see a little more detail in that building. All right, Kelly, sunrise view from my hotel just outside Seattle. Nice. I like two things I like about this photo. I like that you actually see the landscape with the lights below the horizon. I think sometimes I might say too, and others might have just wanted to capture the sky with the silhouetted horizon line. And I actually think that this is a great photo where you captured, even though it's sort of like boring, it's just like this parking lot. It's just people probably getting up on their way to work. And I actually really like that composition. I almost like it so much that my critique would be that I could have either had maybe tilted down even more or cropped it in a way where we lose a little bit of the sky. I think actually this photo printed out and like blown up like as a big print would be nice in the way that it is here, with a big sky. However, I feel like on the computer screen, you kind of lose out on the ability to see some of these really cool details at the bottom of this photo because so much of this photo is of the sky, which the sky looks great too. You got these clouds. I think my only other piece of advice would have been to see, and maybe you did, see what the sky looks like in like 5 minutes. I could tell that the sun is still pretty far beneath that horizon line. And I'm just curious if the sky and everything was a little bit brighter and maybe more colorful, or maybe the opposite. Maybe it just would have started to wash out the colors in the sky. But I'm curious if you would have got a little more color at some point during the sunrise. One other thing I noticed is I think I see like a reflection from inside the hotel room probably. If that's happening, you can turn off the lights inside your room so that it's completely dark so you won't see that reflection. That's just like a minor thing. All right, but thank you, Kelly. I love that. All right, Zubair. This is a photo of a temple somewhere. Keep your garden clean. I don't know where this is. What do I like about this photo? Two things. I like the angle and composition of it. I like having this tree on the left sort of hanging over and framing the rest of this scene. And I like that just like it's very balanced. I think I like the balance of this photo with the temple, with the tree, the colors. The advice I would give is, one, I'm not a huge fan of the color filter that you applied being so strong. It's definitely a vibe that you're going for, but it's so much that it looks so unrealistic and unnatural, which maybe is what you're going for. And if you did want that, then you achieved it. But I feel like you pushed it a little bit too far. And then, can anyone guess what my second piece of advice would be? The watermark. It's got to be somewhere less distracting. Put it in if you are going to have a watermark, put it somewhere down in the corner. Set the opacity to like 50% so that it's not as distracting. Make it smaller. I get that people still want to put watermarks on their photos in case people see it and say, hey, this is Zubair's photo. Cool. I wonder who Zubair is. But at the same time, it takes away from me being able to just appreciate your photo. But this looks like a beautiful location. I want to know where this is. You didn't add any information, but let me know where this is. All right. How's everyone doing? If you tuned in after I started, what I'm doing different today is I'm not giving a rating. And I want your feedback on this. And you can comment here. You can send me a DM. But if you like the ratings that I did previously, let me know. But today I'm trying something new where I'm giving 2 things that I like about a photo and then at least 1 way to improve it. And I'm just trying to have a little bit more not speed, but like respect for the time of everyone so that I can get through enough photos and still be helpful though. All right, Cesar Guzman. Next is this photo, Ordinary Spring Day. All right. This was a tricky one. At first I thought I was like this, and then when you open it, you see the full photo. All right, what do I like about this photo? I like that there is a subject in there that's a person and not just the tree. I think the tree by itself kind of could have been interesting, but having the person there I think is super helpful because it's another point in your photo that draws our eye into it and it keeps us with the photo. And I like the framing of the person and the bench within this space right here. 2 areas to improve. Maybe is 1. I think it's mostly compositionally. Even though I'm saying I like this idea of the framing the person and the bench in this area, they're actually getting cut off quite a bit by like this root of the tree. And I feel like I could almost see this photo being better if it was cropped in to this part of the frame. See where my mouse is? Or if you as the photographer had moved a little bit to the right and the person and maybe even this bench, which this is an interesting story in itself, having this person sitting here but not sitting on the bench, which is clearly open. So intriguing, right? But shifting to the right a little bit to see if like you could see the bench more clearly and the person more clearly, I think would be helpful. There's something to be said, and there's an argument for being so wide. I kind of like the minimalism or the negative space kind of that you get with the person and the bench being so small and this tree being so big. But maybe it's just the shape of the tree that I think because this big branch goes over, I think that's a thing in the composition that would make a nice framing at the top of the frame rather than like cutting across the middle. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let us move on to Cesario, fine art photographer, went to this amazing scene as the light unfolded and the lamps turned on. This was just an ordinary day to me. It was a beautiful opportunity to capture a black and white image. Very nice. Is that like a sunset or sunrise behind this? That's very cool. All right, so 2 things I like about this photo. I love the symmetrical composition. You get the leading lines of these paths, of these lights, leading to this really cool building in the middle, and it's very well balanced, and it just makes this photo pleasing. So I really love that. I like the choice of the black and white, and like Suzanne says, the contrast. I think the contrast is great because with the black and white, you're able to remove a lot of distractions that my eye would be going towards. At first, I was thinking, I kind of want to see this in color, but I know that if this was in color, the building wouldn't stand out as much because there would be so many different colors in these trees, in the background, even in the sky. So I think that the black and white choice was the right one. I guess my area of improvement, part of me wonders about cropping out this front part of the street at the bottom again to just make like a cleaner image. Maybe, I don't know. I would have played around with that. Might not have ended up doing that. And I like the contrast. I think there's maybe a little bit too much of like, is it like a clarity or some sort of thing, especially in the sky? Maybe it's like a dehaze that was pushed a little too far. Like, I like seeing the details in the sky, but it's almost a little too like grungy for me. And again, maybe that's the style you were going for, and that if so, then you did a good job. But I feel like I would have rather like softened up the sky a little bit and not had it as contrasty so that the building stood out a little bit more. Because all these points of light, these points of contrast, where you have like edges of things, where it's light versus dark in the clouds, in the trees, all of that is competing for our attention. Our brain is trying to figure out what to look at. And that's in your tool bag as a photographer and a photo editor to play with that. Make things more contrasting, make things less contrasty to draw people's eyes to different parts of an image or just focus our attention. So anyways, though, this is a really good photo. So great job. And I would say that was sort of like an ordinary place-ish kind of, but made extraordinary mostly through your photography. Dragan, I saw your other post. I commented on it, but I just want to say special shout out for posting in our weekly challenge. Bit of luck, old Metro car, no other people. Love the colors inside. I think seeing the colors here, actually, I dig it too, because you posted the black and white, but there's something about being able to see the colors, especially in this photo, where in this one, black and white, there would just be too much going on that I think having the colors actually really nice. So 2 things I like the colors, the choice, and then the next thing is that symmetry that you're aiming to achieve looking down this center aisle. Improvement, I think my thought would be it's so symmetrical, but there's something that's not symmetrical, and that is that this door on the left is open. And perhaps, someone walked in before it closed, but if this had closed, then I think that would have added a bit more symmetry to it, just like complete mirror on both sides. And then also, I'm curious at the same time, if you took the same photo while the train was moving, if you would have got any sort of motion blur or just less distraction outside of these windows, so that Yeah, we're just focused on the interior. I mentioned this, I think, in my comment. There's something that's like feels slightly not perfectly centered. And this is the case where you're trying to be perfectly centered and symmetrical. I see like there's this post on the right-hand side, and then you can tell there's a little bit of a difference in like the distance of this post to the bottom of the frame compared to this one. Although now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, is that, yeah, that's probably symmetrical in the same distance in the actual place. So I think if you would have been to the left just slightly, it would have been perfectly symmetrical. And I mean, I could analyze this. I could see the details of like even the reflection of the lights on the floor. You can tell that you were just slightly off to the right, the way that the reflection is. It's not symmetrical on the ground. So super small details, even like the distance between these posts in the background. You can tell it's slightly off, but that's just me being like super picky. And maybe one other thing I'll throw out there is try the shot with the camera down low or even higher, like put it right next to the ceiling or down on the ground, just to see if there's something more interesting than just like that shot from your eyes. Yes, Rosemary, 1 to 2 inches to the left. Yeah, that's right. All right, Mario. What the eye can't see, the camera can. Nice. That's the thing. I've never seen the Northern Lights, and confirm if you have, but people say that, I mean, it's just like even seeing like taking photos of stars, that you don't see the lights as powerfully as like these photos that you see, because your camera can do long exposures, you can edit them. All right, so 2 things I like about this photo. One is the subject. It's a subject that, being the Northern Lights, being something that's just like amazing and extraordinary. So I think that works really well. And second thing is I like the balance between the sky to the horizon. We have like 2/3 sky, 1/3 horizon and land or water. And that's usually like a very nice balance for these kind of wide angle shots. 2 things I would improve about this. I don't know if you were trying to or wanted these like foreground objects like this. Putting foreground objects and your camera in a place where there's things in front of the lens can often be very creative. Here they feel like a distraction. And I think they feel like a distraction because all of these plant branches or reeds or whatever they are sort of blocking other things in the photo that might be of visual interest. Like I see these, looks like rocks in the water, or the horizon with the city lights on the left-hand side. And so framing it up in a way where I don't mind having the foreground objects, especially if they're out of focus like this, but where they're not like covering up some of these other things that might have had a nice place in your photo. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is I think the horizon is not level on a photo like this. You want to have that horizon perfectly level. In Lightroom, you can use the level tool or crop, rotate, just to get that perfectly level. And I can't tell if there's a little bit of blur from like a camera shake as well. You're doing a long exposure for sure, but I feel like because these lights look a little too blurry on the left, there might have been a little camera shake during that long exposure. So be careful of that. Otherwise, I think you actually probably could have pushed the contrast a little bit more and got some more color out of the lights and also seen more stars. So you could play around with that in post. All right. Hello. All right. Was small street, looking street library for people who cannot afford new books. I love that. Fujifilm recipe that shifts the white balance to the blue. Orange light. Very cool. Okay, two things I like about this photo. I like the clean lines of this window that you see here. And I'm wondering, Very, if you're here, maybe you said this is like it's a telephone cabin. Oh, nice, cool. Yeah, we have all kinds of these like little libraries, we call them here, where people put out books for free and you can exchange them. So I love the idea of using this telephone booth as that. So I like the straight lines, and then to your point of using the Fujifilm recipe, I love the cool to warm color tones that you get here. Two things that I would have done to try to improve this is I want to see that person's face. It's kind of mysterious not being able to see that person's face, and maybe that's interesting to some people. I kind of wish this was a split second before where that person's face was right in the middle of one of these window panes and you could see them. Or maybe a different moment where they are inside this booth but grabbing a book or something. Might have been interesting too. The other thing that I'm not sure about, because I'm not sure what it looked like, the idea that this was like an old telephone booth turned into a little library, I kind of want to see that this is a telephone booth. So even having it wider maybe would have been cool if you had, like, I'm imagining the top of this had like a cool old sign that says like telephone or something like that. So maybe if that was the case, that might have been interesting. But I love the straight lines. I love like the different frames within this photo that you get, the contrast between the blues and the warms, and having the person in here also makes it so much better than without the person. All right, I hope that helps, Very. Thank you so much for posting. All right, Thomas posted this photo of an ordinary piece of wood that becomes these clogs, which I think is like amazingly on point with like the theme of this challenge. So the subject being like this wood that turns into these wood shoes, which is just a perfect example of something ordinary becoming extraordinary, and being able to see that is really nice. So the things I like about it are perfect subject, and then the second thing is just the balance and the cleanliness of this photo, where you have like this nice balance of the person over on the third, but then you also have the shoes rack on the left, very nice, and then at the bottom you have the wood that is being worked on. Very, very nice. I'm trying to think. So improvement wise, I mean, the other thing I'll say that I really like is the moment of this. Like, you captured the person, this old guy working on the shoe. Like, if this person was just sitting there or standing there, it just would have been a less of an interesting photo. And so seeing him actually sawing this piece of wood, I think is very cool. Thing to improve, maybe you could have gotten the photo where you saw his face. Maybe, I don't know, because I'm like, maybe if you had like a lower angle, you got it at a moment where he was like sawing, still doing the motion, but like looking up a little bit, might have been interesting to see his face, but maybe not. And this like the edge of this, I don't know if this was like, I'm imagining this is like at some sort of like fair or something where they're in these tents or booths or something like this. And so you have this like fabric here on the right side, which I don't mind. I almost wish there was one on the left hand side too, and you could have framed it up. I wouldn't want it covering these shoes, but like just having it more balanced could have been cool. Maybe if you had been to the left a little bit, and you could see the guy, same exact composition, but just slightly to the left. And so you're not seeing so much of this little curtain. I don't know. That's being picky. I really like the photo. I like the edit. So really, really good job. All right. Celeste, sewing machine. Two things I like about it. One, again, great subject. The idea of this tool that or machine that we can use to like transform things from ordinary to improve it. Or sorry, I'm reading. Ordinary to extraordinary. So I love that. And then two is you have a great focus. So super shallow depth of field. Not sure if you were using a macro lens or not. Non-macro lens. Just the 55 millimeter f5.6. There's enough in focus and the right things in focus that I think it makes sense not having everything in focus. You got the needle here, perfectly sharp, and just sort of like the center part of this part of the sewing machine, which I really, really like. So great focus, nice composition. Thing I would do to improve it? I don't know. What would you do to improve this photo? Let me know in the comments. Maybe it would have been interesting to see what was being worked on so to have like the fabric or whatever it is underneath this. I don't know what this is called, but under this part of the sewing machine, just to add like another texture. But then you would have lost this sort of like nice reflective surface. Maybe being over to the right just a little. I like this angle, but I could see how like maybe if like this little knob wasn't behind the needle would have stood out more from the background. And so if you were to the right 2 inches, you might have been able to see like the needle over the background versus this knob. But I still like this angle. So that would have been something to play with. Yeah, so I don't have a lot of improvement for this one. I really like it. Good job, Celeste. All right, Mubin. Parking lot, a sunrise, and a moment worth stopping for. Found this reflection before I even started the car. Ooh, cool. Nice. Things I like about this. I like... Oh, that's like the top of the car, too. It's not I thought it was like a puddle on the ground. I like the choice to photograph the reflection for sure, looking out for that, and the colors are wonderful for this photo. Something I might have tried to do to improve this is I actually think if the camera was closer to the top of the car, you would have got more reflection and tried to get more symmetry top bottom with this tree, and then like the size of the tree at the bottom. I like this sort of leftish top quadrant of this photo. I don't care for this stuff over on the right hand side or this stuff at the bottom. And again, I think you could crop and fix that, but getting that camera closer to the reflection would have been cool, because the reflection is cool, but like you don't get like to see a lot of the detail in the reflection. But I can see like, oh, that tree with the silhouette and the sun is really cool in the reflection. And I think getting closer to the top of the car would have helped with that. Very cool, though. Awesome. All right. Yeah, most extraordinary parking lot, that's for sure. Bojan took this photo of a chimp having lunch at the zoo. All right. Nice photo. Two things I like about it. One, dig the lighting. A lot of maybe editing to get the lighting so that the face of the chimp and the lettuce was lit really well. Everything else kind of fades to dark, which I kind of like. So very cool lighting. And then I guess the other thing is the colors. I like this pop of green. Really, really cool. Improvement, I guess maybe be a little tighter. The chimp and the lettuce is like centered, which works. Maybe if you cropped a little bit from the left and bottom, it would have, because the chimp is like facing this negative space on the right side of the frame. I think that could have lent itself to a sort of rule of thirds crop where the chimp was more on the left side of the frame. But yeah, and maybe I probably would have used like a mask to brighten up the chimp's face or where their eyes are. It's a little dark, and I kind of want to see more of that detail. And just a shout out for the watermark. This is a good placement of the watermark because it doesn't distract me. It's like small enough that it's almost not there. At that point, it's almost like, why put it there anyways? and if you don't catch my drift, my goal in life is to get you guys to stop putting watermarks on your photos. Someone argue with me and tell me why you want to put the watermark on your photo. I guess like the argument is like for the happenstance chance if someone sees it and like is like, oh, whose photo is this? Oh, there's a watermark. But like typically the previous reason to do it was to protect your photos so that someone couldn't like just take it and then post it on another website or Instagram or whatever and steal your work. But with AI tools, and I mean this has been the same for years, or just cropping this, someone can still steal your photo and just do it anyways and remove your watermark. So at this point, I'm waiting for an argument for adding watermarks, but I haven't got one yet. That being said, if you're going to put one, that's where to put it. So +1 to Bojan. All right, Jolene. Ew, what is this? The sun just beginning to touch the ice on the creek. Whoa, that's really cool. I mean, it's so abstract. It looks like metal. That's crazy. So what do I like about this? It's something that I haven't seen before. So it just like is so different and it draws me in. And I like that it's just like this abstractness. You framed up the ice and you weren't worried about getting anything else in there. And maybe like there's a different photo here where you see the ice at the bottom of the frame, but maybe there's like, something else in the horizon that you're looking at. But I actually like the idea of just photographing this ice breaking up. I guess my only critique though is that I don't really know what to look at. It's kind of far away enough from this ice that I'm not able to see that much detail. So maybe being tighter in on like one part of this might have helped my brain to like understand and appreciate and see like the little details and the texture of this ice cracking. But there's an argument for just staying wide and having this sort of palette, which kind of creates this really cool abstract texture. That's nice. So I don't have other critique for that because I think it's just one of those ones that's so unique that and it's done very well for what it is. So I think pretty solid job. Okay. Jivan, daughter is the first model for every photographer. That's true. All right, 2 things I like about this photo. The lighting is very nice. I don't know if you put your daughter in this spot, if there's light coming in through a window, something like that. Perfect placement of your daughter in that light. And I like the framing of the composition with them on the side, negative space on the left. The focus is very nice. Shallowed up the field from far away is tough to get, but you're sharp on her and it looks good. Piece of advice. It's tilted a little bit. This dresser in the back is a good clue that this photo is a little bit tilted. I think that having it straight out would have looked better. And then also there's this opportunity to have this amazing reflection on the floor and be able to see your daughter in that reflection, which I think would have been really cool. And the way you could have achieved that is either by tilting down or putting the camera even closer to the ground allows you to get that reflection in the camera even better. And just cropping out whatever is on the left side of this. Like there's this, maybe it's a wall with a bowl or something. I don't want anything to distract my eye except for what's clearly in focus, which is your daughter. Maybe bring down the highlights a little bit on their bib. It's like a little bright. If this was like shot in RAW, that you could do that. But since this looks like maybe in your home, you could probably retake this exact same photo using that advice. So try to get the reflection in there, straighten it out a little bit, which you could do in post. So you can just rotate it a little bit in editing, crop out that left side. Yeah, great model to work with. So great job. Thank you for posting. All right, Evgeny. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. Bubbles inside glacier with non-macro lens. Oh, very similar to the ice cracking photo. Lovely texture. So two things I love about it. I love the top-down view, and I dig the texture. Great editing to sharpen it up or whatever you did to like make those textures look good. One thing to improve, it's maybe a little dark overall, so maybe bring up the exposure a little bit. If you did that, I would probably back down the blacks or the darks just to still have contrast. Maybe could have pushed the saturation a little bit to make it a little more blue, but you might not want to go too far, especially if it starts to look unnatural. Otherwise, this looks like a very nice painting, a great photo to print out on like a canvas and put up on your wall. So I could see a series of these photos, being as a part of a gallery. It's very cool. Nice work. All right, Laura, Cathedral of Green. Ooh, nice. All right. I like this photo. All right, two things I like about this photo. It's very hard to take a photo like this in a foresty area with a bunch of trees and have one tree stand out, but you achieve that. So that's +1. And +2, I think the reason is partially because the framing, where there's not like a tree right behind this that's distracting. These trees on the side are also, the trunks are like off frame, so you have like really just one main tree with one big trunk in the middle. But also having this person there, I think, is key to making this feel extraordinary. The size of it, also the person looking up at the tree, like adds to that story of like, wow, this is really cool. A piece of advice. I mean, for what this photo is, it's pretty good. You probably could play with editing and get super creative with lighting to like maybe like create some interesting vignettes or darkening up trees in the background, but only having this one tree sort of brighter. Maybe played with like creating like a ray of light around this person to like highlight this person. That could be a creative edit. Yeah, I don't know if there's really anything else. Maybe if your camera was, it looks like this is like a path on the bottom that this person walked towards this tree. Like maybe if the camera was closer to that path down a little bit, you sort of could have got that leading lines from the sides of the frame leading to the person and the tree looking up. Something like maybe could have got that, but otherwise I think it's pretty good. All right, Nai Roth, single flower. had fallen into our pool. When I got closer, I saw that blue LED lights around the walls of the pool combined with the darkness of the water gave the flower an almost fluorescent appearance. Wow, that's pretty cool. Two things I like about this photo. I like the negative space. Super minimal negative space photo. Like that. Dig that a lot. Two, I like the color of the flower that you're getting. And you edited it or shot it in a way where you see the details of the flower, the textures, partially because of the light that is reflecting underneath it. I guess my only critique is maybe it's almost like too far away. It's almost too far from you, from the audience, to be able to see like a lot of the details. I don't know. I guess there's no context for what is happening. If I didn't read your thing, I would be like, what is this weird flower floating in the middle of the air? I don't know what's going on. Maybe overall, I don't know if you made it bluer overall, but like, that's fine. I don't know. Part of me is like, I don't know if like the water looks unnaturally blue. I don't know if that's a problem. But I think my biggest thing would be just to get a little bit closer to that flower so you can see a little bit more details. Even though I do like the sort of minimalistic negative space that you're getting from this shot. All right, Spnadana. Ugh, that was your comment. Droplets of snowflakes. Is this looking through a window? What is going on here? It looks like you're looking through, a window. So, okay, things I like about this photo. I like the idea of the droplets of snowflakes. I think I'm going to jump right into my improvements. I want to be focused on those, I think. I want to be focused on I'm guessing this is like a window in front of you, and see those with a blurry background and not the reverse. I think if there was something interesting to be looking at in the distance and focusing on that, but then just having this like interesting texture from all the out of focus droplets surrounding like a person or kids playing, or even if it's just like a car driving by or something, that could have been cool. But here I feel like the droplets just look kind of like it's like a dusty, dirty lens and not like something that is magical, which it probably was. Even if you had just zoomed in and cropped in on just the out of focus, blurry bokeh droplets that you get up here, that could have been like a cool texture. But in this photo, like the background, there's like a lot of distractions from these bushes. There's nothing in the background that's like that eye-catching or pleasant to look at, really. So maybe it's like moving, if you're in a car or something, going somewhere where the background is more interesting, but still with these cool droplets. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what you felt like. Ugh, not sure what to do with this one, but I think the droplets are interesting, but I'm curious what they look like in focus. All right, Todd, an evening to remember. Someone once asked me, which is better to photograph, sunrise or sunset? I responded, it depends. I like both. They felt that sunsets were better because you can drink wine at you can't drink wine at sunrise. All right. So this is a photo that you shot a few years ago. Todd always has this nice contrast and colors. So two things I like about this. I like the panoramic crop. Very cool. I love the colors that you're getting. This is one where like dehazing and crushing and clarity all add to the contrast of the sky and the colors and the reflections. So very cool. It's very abstracty, which I actually like. My one critique would be that the horizon is not level. It's tilted. And so I would have straightened that out. Otherwise, I think solid photo. Very good example of like a wide crop panoramic style photo. And I like the balance of like the clouds, the darkness of the clouds at the top. It just pushes our eyes down to the skyline in the back. And I think Suzanne talking about this photo? The blue, yeah, the blue makes it pop. Without the blue, you kind of lose everything. You need that contrast in color to really make the other parts of the images pop. All right, Rosemarie, here we go. Garlic is pretty extraordinary, all on its own. That is true. That is true. All right, cool photo. Good work. Two things I like about this. Really good focus. You used an f-stop where f22, that's very sharp or very deep depth of focus. You would think you still have pretty shallow depth of field, but it was the right decision because in this photo, I like seeing that detail of all the garlic, the outer layers of the garlic. I like that you composed it this way with the one piece of garlic on the side. Very nice. And then also the edit I like. So that's the other thing I like. It's like a very soft, subtle edit, but still you have like that sharpness and detail that you want for a photo like this. I guess an area for improvement. I'm just seeing you said light painting. Nikon lit by a trust. Interesting. So I have actually not done a lot of experimenting myself with like light painting where you do this longer shutter, which is, what'd you say, bulb shutter. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how long your shutter was, but I like the vignetting you're getting around here. I'm wondering if you could have added a mask where you denoise the background around, or like a radial mask or a background mask in Lightroom or something where you denoise the background, because I feel like you're getting a little bit of noise and grain here, unless it's just the texture of the background. But even in the foreground, I feel like there's some noisiness going on. And I think having that might have happened if you push the sharpness up for the whole photo. Maybe. But like blurring out or softening the background, I think would be the one thing that would have helped this. But you said this was several layers of 4 seconds each. Okay, I was wondering if you focus stack them. Yeah, no, really cool photo. Great practice. And I like the rule of thirds, sort of, off a little bit off to the side look. Great job. Yum, garlic. All right. Mariama passing through, photographed an empty chair beside a room that once belonged to someone who was my friend for a long time. Well, I love the story behind this, and even without the written words, you could kind of get that same vibe and story from this photo of this empty chair. And I think the lighting is just amazing coming in through there with the not the reflection, but just the silhouetting of the shot, or the shadows rather, of the window panes. Yeah, I think I really don't have critique for this. Potentially my only thing that could have been done is, seems like this chair is there for a special, like for a reason. So you don't want to necessarily move the chair, But if there was a way to wait till the shadow was like perfectly centering this chair, like see how this shadow has like from the window panes have these two lines. If that was centered over the chair, that would have been like, wow, like really, really like good job, like in terms of like waiting for the right moment, shifting the chair to the right just a little bit. But otherwise, I think love the shadows, love the black and white edit, love the centering of the chair. Nice balance. Really, really cool photo. I dig this. I mean, this is my style of photography right there. All right, neat. Forgot whether this was after the rain or after I watered the plants. Nice. I love trying to get these kinds of photos. So 2 things I like about this photo. Love the subject, love the colors, and the focus on the water droplets is nice. Something I would probably improve is, and if you watch my frame by frame, you probably know what I might say. This branch in the background is unfortunately like kind of distracting from the main leaf. And so I think getting at like a different angle, or sometimes I'm out there taking photos of like flowers and I just like try to use my hand to like push down the flower or the branch in the background to get the shot. Do something where that isn't going through the frame in the background behind your main leaf. And maybe I think just playing with the angle of how you take this would have helped. I don't know what your lens was that you were using. This is a tough one to, I mean, it's nice, but like if you had a lens where you could go macro on these to get really tight on one of these water droplets or a few of them, and see the details of the leaf and the veins in the leaf, that would have been cool too. But I think my biggest thing is just like the background is kind of distracting from the leaf in the foreground. So I would work on that. All right, Kimberly. Let's see, Kimberly. This is beautiful fall morning in the Great Smoky Mountains. Landscape auto setting. Nice. I am seeing so many new people participating in the weekly challenges. I love it. All right, 2 things I like about this. I like the framing with the foreground. So you have like the foreground trees framing these smoky mountains. Doesn't look like smoke over there, that fog. And the moment. So you capture this, I think you said at sunrise. Beautiful moment because you get a lot of color in the sky, and I can tell you probably boosted the saturation of the blue in the sky. It's on the edge of feeling a little unnatural, but I think it's pretty good. One thing I would improve, I would probably just crop out this little branch in the top left corner. So maybe just crop in a little bit, or if you were there, maybe shifting yourself to the right might have helped. Part of me is like curious, like what over here looks like. The sunrise looks like it's coming from that direction, and like photographing that might have, like having more of this gold light might have been nice. But just the overall like just vibe of this like foggy, cloudy mountain range is very cool. So yeah. All right, Michelle, I think you posted this one before, and I feel like I had critiques because I thought these sun rays were not real, but then you sent me the raw photo and it was there. So I guess 2 things I like. I like that. And I'm wondering if you took in my advice of like cropping in. I kind of like the crop super wide like that. It looks pretty cool. I think my one area of improvement, which I don't know if I said last time, is that it feels a little contrasty and fake. And I know it's not fake, but there's something about the sun rays and maybe just the contrast of it that makes it look so unnatural, which is so weird. And I'm going to have to go back to the negative or the raw photo that you sent me to see how different it looks like compared to this edit. But I mean, it is extraordinary. I mean, these sun rays were actually there. I saw in your photo. So maybe it's just like the blue to gold. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like, I don't know if you cooled down the left and right side and created this like bluish radial vignetting or something. Um, there's something like that that makes it feel like over edited. I think that's what it is. It feels over edited. So softening things down, softening the contrast or the saturation or something, I think might help. But very cool panorama, and I'm glad to see you went back to it and made some edits based off of the previous challenge. All right, Suzanne, hopefully not too late. Essen, Germany. This escalator. I'm like, what's the word for that? Escalator. That is ordinary, and this photo does make it look somewhat extraordinary. It's I don't know if it's extraordinary in my taste. It looks a little grimy and dirty, but the photo is very cool. So things I like about it, I like the symmetry, and I like the contrast of colors from like the orangish red to like the silver. It's very, very contrasty, and I dig that. Area of improvement. I think my only thing is I could lose a little bit of the top. I think it's the shape and the color of the escalator that I think is the most interesting thing. And the windows, because they're a little crooked, and I don't think that's your fault. I think that's the way that these look, and maybe they're just not balanced. And so cropping in and cutting out like this top part of the frame might have helped. Maybe even just like a tighter crop on the stair or the escalator could have helped. I would have played around with that, but otherwise, like the shapes and colors is pretty good. So good job. All right, Diana V. Just my hometown with no claim to unusual grandeur. Yet the sunset light, the right silence, and a little snow quietly elevated the view. Wow, that was poetic. What I like about this, I love the layers. Lots of layers. You got the trees, you got the buildings, you got the background, you got, I don't know if this is like a building or a train going by or something. And I like the moment. Great sort of soft lighting from the sunrise, maybe sunset. Very nice. I think my only critique or way to improve this would be just having one subject that was more pronounced. I think what's in focus and has the contrast is this tree that's silhouetted, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know, maybe I want to be somewhere like see the same look but have like one building be more in focus or something more in focus. I don't know though. It's kind of like a nice just vibe of what it was going on. But I think just trying to find something in a scene like this that you could focus on would have helped. Yeah, so Miss Windy City 312, just a quick, I see your chat. Yes, I'm trying something new today where I'm not giving a rating. I'm just giving 2 things I like and 1 or 2 things to improve photos. I want your feedback on this. I can't believe I've already been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. I thought this was going to help me to like get through these photos a little bit faster. But I'm trying to do things to, we're getting more and more submissions to the weekly challenges. And I've had ideas in the past of like, why don't you just like go over your top photos? I think that defeats the purpose of like what my aim for frame by frame. I want to like help everyone with their photos. But it's obviously hard when we have so many amazing photographers who are posting photos. So just trying something new. If you have ideas, let me know. I might actually do a survey next week. And speaking of that, I might try something different next week where I go live right within the community, which is an option. So just pay attention next week. the link might not go to YouTube. It might just go to a live stream in the community. Just that's like a side note. But yeah, anyways, just trying things new. All right, Mirella, ice crystals. All right, what do I like about this? I like the black and white, actually. I think because you edited it in black and white, you get the sense of just these cool textures that you don't get with a color photo. That sun looks so bright. I hope it's not hurting your sensor. And I like the angle, the look up angle. It's just not, I'm not just taking a photo straight out from my eye level view. I'm looking at something different. I think my main critique to improve this is that still there's not something specific to look at. Like, it's kind of like this nice texture, which is a cool photo, but maybe there's a way to photograph where like you can see more details of these ice crystals. I don't know. I think ice crystals preparing to melt. Sunburst through the trees. Maybe it's just like being a little bit tighter would have helped. The sunburst is pretty cool. Yeah, maybe it's just like a crop or just a slight change to the framing to get a little closer or something so I can see more details of the ice crystals, which you can't tell what this is without knowing that these are ice crystals. So being closer, I think, would have been kind of cool. All right, Timothy Heaney, cup of beans ready to be ground down into an extraordinary first cup of the day. I like that. All right, two things I like about it. The subject, I love coffee, love roasting, grinding my own beans. And the focus is very good on those beans. You get the details very good. The one thing I would improve is I would drop down that vignetting. It's a little harsh around the edge, or it's quite harsh around the edge of this cup. And the point of the vignette, which you're using it for, is to focus our attention on this cup, but it's just a little bit too harsh. And in the bottom, you kind of get away with that because it's vignetting this plate that is dark, but in the top with the background being so light, it looks like an edited vignette. And so I'd probably drop that vignette down a little bit or just add it to the bottom. And maybe just frame in a way where you're like kind of centered, but it's slightly off. So just like get that cup exactly centered into the frame, or push it to the side a little bit more, like down to the side, rule of thirds or something, or just center it up. I think would have been actually my preference for this photo. And that could be done with even just like a simple crop. Just crop a little bit off the right to get this perfectly centered. But otherwise, nice shot. All right, Cree Harris, and this is the last one. Colored pencil zoomed in. I love this shot. This is like a classic. Whoever like took this photo first, they were probably like super stoked on it. And then I see this like as like a classic sort of like stock photos of colors and colored pencils. Great idea for a colorful challenge. So what do I like about it? I like all the colors. And the contrast and textures you get are very nice. Probably my thing that I would say for improvement, I kind of want to see what the points look like in focus. So if the focus was a little bit closer to the camera, and that could have just been by moving away half an inch or by adjusting the focus if you could have. Because I kind of like in the bottom, like seeing the texture of the tip of like this blue and violet, pinkish, purple-y thing color. Like I feel like not having a couple out of focus or not having everything in focus is fine, but like I think like this red one, this orange, the ones that are right around the center, I kind of want to see in focus. And then just like a slight balance thing where like on the bottom you can see like the container it's in, but the top you can't. It's like such like a minor thing, but like just to get like more centered, more balanced, more symmetrical photo, I think would have been nice to like either crop in, tighten in, or just adjust your angle just a little bit so that like the container is either seen on both edges or not seen on both edges. Otherwise, cool photo. And that is our Something Ordinary Becomes Extraordinary photo challenge. Man, good job, everyone. I'm going to leave it at that today. I'm not going to get to the other challenges. Might just be the other challenges from the end of the year. I might just let go and not do. But thank you so much for everyone who has supported the community. Couple little things. If you have not done so yet, go to the announcements and do the survey. Still, I would love to get more information from you. Stay tuned because I'm just going to give you a peek behind the scenes a little bit. I'm actually doing a workshop related to running online communities. And that's part of the reason why you're seeing a few little updates, tidying up, house cleaning with the community. I moved a couple spaces around. I moved the Say Hello space up to Member Center, updated the graphics so things looked a little bit more modern. There's a couple, based off the survey results, there's a couple of these spaces, specifically the editing room, business stuff, that don't get used often and were ones that people said that they could get rid of. I kind of like having the breakouts so that people have a specific space for, if they have editing questions or gear talk or business. I don't know if the naming is confusing. Maybe like business stuff isn't the right name. So any ideas from the community to make it better would be helpful. We are going to be getting an influx of new members, I think, because as I mentioned earlier, I officially just shut down post in the Facebook group. So, which there were still like people posting every day, which surprised me, but I felt a little bad removing it. But one, don't support Facebook. Don't support these big companies. They're not good for the world. They're not good for our mental state. And two, just want to bring people here. And so, any idea is great. Do the survey. Stay tuned. Let me know what you thought about this frame by frame, and I will be back next week. But like I mentioned, I might be here in the community. I might try that out. As always, though, let's see. Have a beautiful day. The biggest thing about doing the thing in the community is that I don't know if I'll be able to do my little intro, which I love. I'm not going to do a speed round challenge today. If there is or speed round for these other challenges today, but if there's a week, or maybe I might just do like an extra video or something to cover the quiet moments in one color, because I know people want that. So we'll see though. All right. Much love. If you're not part of Photography and Friends and you're watching this somewhere, join. It's free. And I will see you next time. Get out there, take photos, and bye. Much love. See ya. Bye.